Hi everybody, my name is Anya Homer, the baby reflux lady, and I really want to say good morning on this beautiful, beautiful sunny April morning, and thank you so much to Mori for the invitation to come and speak about reflux and all things considered. So reflux, silent reflux, colic, cow's milk protein allergies and intolerances, and to go through that with you today this morning. So please, can you let me know if you're here? Can you let me know that you can hear me? Do comments and things like that. I'm just going to make sure I can... Oh, I need to have this on my page as well. Because I need to see any comments that come up during the conversation this morning. I'm here for an hour. And I'm going to go through the questions that you have already submitted on the page and through Instagram, I think, as well. So first of all, I want to give you a little bit of a quick introduction to me, and then I'm going to dive straight into the questions. In my answers to the questions, I want to make sure that I explain and I give you reasons for the answers of these questions, so that as we go through, most of you can get the understanding of my approach. And if you stay till the end, I've got some special bonuses to give out to essentially launch today that I haven't done anywhere else before. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm just going to check if I'm actually streaming live because I can't see it right now. Just got my iPad out as well. I have nobody watching me. So good morning, everybody, if you are there. I wonder, is this working? I am Anya Homer, the baby reflux lady. I'm going to wait for some people to join. If you can hear me, can you please let me know that you can? Yeah, we'll get started in just a second. Hi, Michelle, how you are? Brilliant, so you can hear me. Super, excellent. Right, well, I'm going to quickly kick off. Thanks for all the likes. As I said, I want to thank Mori for the invitation to be here this morning. I'm going to give you a quick introduction to me, and then I'm going to dive into the questions. So, staying till the end, I've got some bonuses. And do you know what? Really importantly, if there are 3 things that you take away from the next hour, let it be these. First of all, infant reflux is a symptom, not a cause. Always. Okay, that's really important to understand. Secondly, infant reflux is very different from reflux in adults and therefore warrants different treatment. And thirdly, there is so much you can do as a parent or a practitioner who works with babies with reflux to positively affect and change their ongoing discomfort. Hello to everybody joining. So there are the 3 things I want you all to get from this hour. So quickly, who am I? I'm Anya Homer. I'm the baby reflux lady, and I am the author of the Baby Reflux Ladies Survival Guide. I don't even have a copy with me today, so I'm sure we'll put a link in the comments. I'm the mum of 2. Both of my girls had reflux. Hi Stacey, good morning. Hi Isabella, welcome. My first was completely missed. It was 5.5 months before Dr. Google helped me accurately diagnose her with silent reflux. And then when we did get a diagnosis of why she was up every single night for the previous 5.5 months, why I was on the verge of postnatal depression, which actually went into postnatal depression in the following months, we got no support. Absolutely none. My second had a tongue tie, which the paediatrician told us with full confidence she had no tongue tie, she has reflux. Here's a prescription for something like omeprazole, I think, which is a particularly strong medication. But I knew in my heart she had a tongue tie. I've got a tongue tie. My husband has a tongue tie. I knew the symptoms, and I knew she did not have reflux because I had a baby with reflux, and it wasn't quite as bad. It was slightly different. Anyway, when we had her tongue tie resolved, like instantly, she was a different baby. Now, it wasn't quite that simple because we had to have it done twice, and I did a whole lot of learning in the process. But essentially, resolving her tongue tie resolved her reflux. By profession, before this, I'm a mechanical engineer, a mathematician, a complex program manager. I'm a traditional Chinese medicine acupuncturist, and I'm a student of nutrition for food intolerances and allergies. Now, all of these put together give me a unique set of skills and a drive to always find the root cause, because by finding and identifying the root cause of any problem, we can either prevent it or we can cure it, resolve it for good. And this is really important, and it makes no difference whether you're building a ship or treating a baby with reflux. The very same process applies, and it works. So now I'm going to jump straight into your questions. So I just want to get... Zoe sent me a list of questions. So we're going to go through the questions in the order that they came in. The first one came from Michelle Alice, and it is it just me, or does it seem like there is a large increase in babies with reflux, and why could this be? Michelle, honestly, I don't know if there's been a large increase. I know that in the UK, the NHS estimates about 40% of babies experience reflux. Now, if you think about it, that's 280,000 babies experiencing reflux, which generally comes with ongoing pain and discomfort and lack of sleep and a whole load of other things. Morning, Michelle. Yes, we absolutely must find the root cause. And why could it be that there's a lot of theories about it? One in particular relates to supplements in pregnancy. And that the folic acid in particular. Now, this is sort of new research in the last 2 years, so it's not what our medical world would consider as proven. But the MTHFR gene mutation means that either our liver can or cannot convert folic acid to folate. Now, folate is really important because that is what our body can use. Our body doesn't use folic acid, it uses folate. So if we have this minor gene mutation, and sometimes completely unnoticeable in people, then what happens is you get midline defects. And that's all the neural tube defects. And these are exactly why we are counselled to take folic acid in the first place, is to minimise and reduce neural tube defects in the growth of the fetus. So the better option would be to take folate supplements, or indeed just have food source folate. So things like broccoli and spinach, and go for folate. So that may be a cause that the folic acid isn't quite working. The MTHFR gene mutation also causes midline defects, and of course a tongue tie is precisely on the midline of the body. That's one theory. Another reason might be our diets. Completely. I will probably touch on this through answering some of the other comments. And at the moment, I am the only person talking about our baby's natural digestive immaturity versus the molecular level of the foods we are eating as breastfeeding mothers, that is in the formulas for babies, and for the foods that we start feeding them when we're introducing foods. Their bodies can't digest them. And these can be singular causes of reflux. So, that's that. Thanks for the share there, Michelle. By the way, if anybody wants to share this video, please, please, please do. There's going to be information in it, hopefully beneficial to everybody. So, Lucy Coombs, my baby is 4 months old and solely breastfed. From a few weeks old, she's always been sick after every feed, unless she falls asleep after or at night. More recently, she's severely sick twice, immediately after coming up to be over my shoulder or held straight up, which is thick, creamy, milk-coloured. Followed by that, she can be sick around 5 to 8 times, usually watery with some digested milk. It doesn't bother her at all, but it means she lives constantly in bibs, getting through a couple of days, and multiple muslins are always on hand. I've tried Gaviscon for a week. It was difficult to administer when breastfeeding, caused constipation and discomfort when she was sick. Not really keen for her to be on medication long term, being so young, and hoping once we start weaning in a few months, the situation might improve. Any advice or remedies would be greatly received. Thanks for the question, Lucy. There's a number of schools of thought. First of all, she is technically refluxing, because refluxing is bringing up stomach contents. Reflux disease, which is what we treat, is when the reflux causes pain and discomfort or results in poor weight gain, failure to thrive, or indeed weight loss. Most medics would say, if she's gaining weight, don't worry about the sick, she'll be fine. Chances are she'll be absolutely fine. It's an inconvenience to be constantly cleaning. However, I also wonder why she is throwing up so much. So if it's coming up immediately after a feed, and if she's not suffering abdominal wind and flatulence and abdominal discomforts, then actually it is highly likely that she has a challenge with her latch. It may be a tongue tie, or it may be some tension in her head or in her jaw, potentially caused from how she was lying in utero, maybe caused by some of the strains her body went under through labour while being birthed. And if it's the latter, she might benefit massively from seeing a craniosacral osteopath who specialises in paediatrics, or going to see a lactation consultant. And I would stress an IBCLC lactation consultant to assess for a tongue tie. Hi Lucy, she was breech baby squished under my ribs. Yeah, so almost definitely go and see a craniosacral osteopath with her if you haven't done already. What this is telling me is that almost certainly she is drinking air, and the air pressure in her stomach is after 30 minutes and 90 minutes after a feed, everybody's stomach does a bigger contraction, and when it contracts, if there's air in there, the fluid comes out far more easily than going the way it should do. So that would be my recommendation. First, craniosacral osteopath, and also then, consult an IBCLC lactation consultant or a tongue tie practitioner and see if there's a tongue tie there as well. If you want any more, please come back to me on that. So we'll jump along to Laura. My 2-month-old spits up after almost every bottle of breast milk. In between feedings, he spits up more curdled milk. Sometimes he cries from gas pains and is very uncomfortable. Will this stage pass? In truth, yes, this stage will pass. No problem, Lucy, no problem. That's what I'm here for. So it's again, just like Lucy, Laura, I'd be wondering, is your baby drinking or swallowing too much air? And I did ask, I didn't see it back in the comments. You say after every bottle of breast milk, is he fine on the breast? If so, then change the bottle. It means that he's not getting as good a latch on the bottle as he can, and he's highly likely drinking air. Once air goes into the stomach, it must come out. It can come up or it can go down. When it goes down, it causes a lot of pain, gas, very uncomfortableness in the abdomen. And the reason for that is that babies don't have the mature level of peristalsis in their stomachs to keep things going and moving the same way that we do as adults. So, yeah, first of all, I'll just flick over, see can I get... I don't know if I can get to where you posted the comments already, and I'm going to just check if you came back to me on that last night, because I did post a comment to you last night. Events. Where are we? Right here now. For some reason it's not... Oh, it is coming up live. See more. Give me the comments. So I'm going to scroll down. Yeah, so Laura didn't come back to me on that. So if you do come back to me, Laura, I'll answer that as well. There is another potential cause, which is the gas pains could be coming from something in your breast milk that is fermenting in his immature gut that he just can't digest, and that can also cause gas pains. I'm sure I'll come into that in more detail later on in the session. Sorry, now that I'm not breastfeeding, I can have a bucket of coffee. I Don't make anybody jealous. Right, next question. Laura Cottrell. And by the way, people, I'm going through these questions because you may find something in the question that resonates with your situation. Laura has a baby who's 11 weeks old, and in the past 9 have been one hell of a journey. We have tried changing formulas various times. Sorry, we live near an airfield. There's a helicopter flying over. I hope it's not too disturbing. Actually, I'll wait till he goes. It's the joys of living in the countryside. Okay, hopefully that's not too deafening. Anyway, so he's gone. We have tried changing formulas various times, infant call, inclining her cot, pacing the garden for hours while she screams herself purple, not lying down after feeds. Basically, you name it, we've tried it. Finally thought we had the answer, and she was diagnosed with silent reflux and given Gaviscon. This helped for the first few weeks, then it seemed to stop working. And after various stern phone calls and trying to seek help, we have been left in the dark. She's been on Gaviscon for 3 weeks now, is a lot better in the daytime, as she is now in a sling, upright a lot of the time and close to my chest. And she will be happily playing on her playmat, then start screaming and turn almost purple. At night time, early evening, she does the same, screams herself purple to the point where she's gasping for air, and it's a few hours. She also won't feed at all, and if she does, it's like the milk is choking her, but she's hungry and screams more. The only comfort she finds is being held on my chest. I know I shouldn't say this, but it's driving me crazy as I can't help our little girl and nothing seems to work. And the professional advice we have been given is, it will get better, she seems fine. Please help stressed out first time mum and my poor Baba in pain. Laura, I completely hear you. I know what it's like to hold your baby who is obviously screaming with pain or discomfort, and that feeling of helplessness to actually change it for them. So I don't think it's fair that anyone says it'll get better, she seems fine. She might be gaining weight. She's most likely happy whenever you go visit a health visitor or a doctor. This happens with babies with reflux. They tend to be really good when you go and ask for help. But you know what? It is really, really important that you are heard and that you are listened to. So with my approach, as always, it's understand what could be causing this discomfort, and then we find the resolution. First of all, I would ask, again, as with the previous two, what is her latch like on the bottle? It really angers me, actually, that most bottle-fed babies get completely ignored when it comes to a tongue tie. There's a number of videos on my Facebook page on tongue tie, so I won't go into it in too much detail here. But a tongue tie is not just important for breastfeeding. It is important for babies feeding, full stop. And it's not just for milk feeding. It is when it comes to solids as well. The tongue is so, so important. So a quick understanding of how the tongue works is when nipple or bottle goes into baby's mouth, they use their tongue to squash it against the roof of their mouth, and then the suck swallow reflex kicks in. Sorry, I speak about reflux too much. Now, if they don't have the tongue mobility that allows them to press the tongue right up to the roof of their mouth, then they will have air in their mouth. And when they have air in their mouth and they're trying to drink, they drink air, they swallow air. So a few of the questions I'd ask you, Laura, is she comfortable when feeding on the bottle, or is she frustrated? Does she turn her head? Does she bob on and off it? Does she, you've already mentioned that she screams in the evening and she won't feed. I wonder, is that because she's just so frustrated that she cannot get a grasp of the nipple on the bottle properly? It's worth trying a number of different bottles. The Dr. Brown's ones are said to reduce air, but they don't necessarily, they reduce air in the milk, not air in the mouth. My preferred ones are the MAM. They seem to have a good success rate with babies who are drinking air to reduce that amount of air. And Medela Calmateat. Now, I know Medela are marketed completely at breastfed babies, but the really, really important thing about a Medela Calmateat is that baby must suck on the teat to release the milk. And by doing this, by them sucking to release the milk, means they are completely in control of how much milk they're drinking and when they're drinking it. Whereas the normal bottles actually have a flow, and baby doesn't suck, essentially. There's a whole lot of other knock-on effects of that, but that's for a completely different time. I could be here for the next hour alone talking about that. So pop over, have a look at the videos on tongue tie on my Facebook page. And I would absolutely have her assessed and then come back to me on what formula she's drinking. It depends on what the symptoms are. For example, if she's got rashes or eczema, hives, spots, any itchiness, then that could be a sign of an allergy irritant. And the other things that are going on is that if there's wind and gas pains, which you haven't mentioned specifically, if there's wind and gas pains, then there could be something in the particular milk that isn't getting digested. Stay till the end and you'll find out some of the bonuses I've got for that. Okay, Nina, is there a way to know for sure that your baby has reflux? We have a 9-week-old who from birth has always been sick a lot. She often coughs, swallows, and sometimes it's like she can't catch her breath. We always keep her upright after feeding for at least 20 minutes and make sure she burps. But we can't get her to lay down on her back for too long because she'll be very uncomfortable and get sick. For her to get good sleep, we need to hold her in a way so she is lying on her side. If not, she wakes up very soon after we put her down. It doesn't matter where it is. She doesn't even stay asleep in a moving pram. We've tried Gaviscon and Zantac without much luck. Zantac, for everybody else, is a omeprazole. It's a proton pump inhibitor. The Gaviscon caused tummy problems. Now we're trying Nexium, which is ranitidine. It's a H2RA blocker, which is slightly less, it's less harsh of medication than the PPI. And we feel like it wasn't doing anything, so we thought we'd stop giving it to her, but then she got crazy. It's usually fairly easy to comfort her, but she constantly needs to be held, and most of the time we need to be walking or moving. Appreciate any advice for her daughter to feel and sleep better. Nina, I completely hear you on this one. I mean, in definite terms, yes, she has reflux. If she's bringing up a lot of milk, if she's constantly vomiting, then yes, she has reflux. The question is whether that reflux is causing her pain and discomfort, or whether it's like one of the comments above, whether it's more of an inconvenience, I suppose. She obviously is uncomfortable and she's not getting good sleep. So again, we don't know if she's breastfed or bottle fed. Again, understanding how is she when she's feeding? Is she comfortable on breast or bottle? Do you think she's drinking air? Because if she's drinking air, then we absolutely need to get that out. See the ones earlier in the video. And the medications don't work massively for 80% of babies. So they only work, like, I've had a survey that's been going on since May. Over 1,500 people have answered it at the moment. And out of those who have answered it, we've got, I think it's 92% of babies on medication. And out of those babies, only 18 or 19% have rated the effectiveness of the medication as being 8 out of 10 or greater. For the rest of them, all the rest of the babies tend to still have reflux symptoms. Now, I go into a lot of detail in my book about how the medications work, because that's really, really important. They address stomach acid. They reduce stomach acid. So the ranitidine or the Nexium, I got them background. Actually, Nexium is the PPI and Zantac is the ranitidine. So she's on the stronger one, which means she's not producing any stomach acid. So when you take her off it, there will be a reflux flare, potentially worse than ever before, but that's how these medications work. I'll see if I can do it quickly, and so just keep an eye on time, and I've got quite a few questions to go. The PPI stops stomach acid, but actually doesn't act on the hormone that the stomach sends to the brain that says produce stomach acid because we've got food in here. So the stomach increases the amount of the hormone produced every time, and it finds a new normal. And the PPI basically works on a level that it blocks all stomach acid being produced. The impact of this is when we remove the medication, that hormone level is still very, very high. So the hormone has told the brain to produce a huge amount of stomach acid. A huge amount of stomach acid causes reflux. That's essentially what we often think of as adult reflux, is an overproduction of acid. That's what happens. There is absolutely an overproduction of acid when babies wean off come off the medications. There's no getting past that. And this is a problem that we see in older children when babies are on these medications for 2.5 or 3.5 years. When they're trying to come off them, it's virtually impossible. And we have to understand that they have to go through the reflux flares and it can take up to 6 weeks for these babies, for their bodies to find their own natural level. And when they find the natural level, they find actually they didn't need to be on the medications for so long. So it's a very, very tough question, that one. For you, it's really about finding the cause of the reflux. So reflux is always caused in babies by 3 things. Aerophagia, which is drinking too much air. I've explored that in some of the questions before, maybe not completely fully, but that's up there. The second one is food intolerances and allergies. And I need to make sure that you understand it's not just your typical allergens. For example, babies might be absolutely fine with things like nuts. There's a high allergen. But for me, I've got a completely different approach. It's understanding how those food types interact with babies' immature digestive system. Things like bread and potatoes can cause massive reflux flares because baby doesn't have the ability to digest those starches. So, for example, potato starch in formula can't be digested. Cornstarch, maltodextrin, which is I really hate that being in formula. It's not good. Really has no place in infant food. So if you're on a formula, please check that it doesn't have maltodextrin, or corn maltodextrin, or rice maltodextrin, or potato maltodextrin as an ingredient, because that does cause wind. It causes gastrointestinal problems, and it's used as a bulker and a filling agent. It's not there for a nutritional benefit. Or something in mum's diet. So potatoes, for example, the starches can get through mum's gut because you've got a mature gut, that's fine, but baby then doesn't have the ability to digest those bits further. So if you want to come back to me, Nina, you come over to my Facebook page, have a chat, we can look at it a bit more. Priscilla, I think I'll just scoot through. I know Zoe picked up a lot of the Instagram questions. If you're PrisYM, then your question is here. So we've got the next one. Please let me know, is any of this making sense? Is it useful? I really want to be adding value here. So if I'm off track, please let me know. So Victoria, I will come back to yours at the end, Victoria. We've got the other questions in here. Nina, oh wow, didn't know that about the medicine. Yeah, it's really important to understand how medication works, and I've detailed that a lot. There's an entire chapter dedicated to medicines in my book. Priscilla, oh yes, sorry, you did say for the yeah, yes, it's useful. Great, okay. We'll keep going with this. So now from an Instagram, we've got Kathleen A.M. Khan. Oh, I have an 8-week-old with reflux. I have a fast flow, so breastfeeding lying down at night when she often falls asleep. Is this making the reflux worse? Kathleen, it's really... do you know what? We need an awful lot more information. If baby is feeding happily and is latched onto the breast properly, then that will reduce reflux. So it's really hard to know. I basically need to know a lot more symptoms of what's going on. Typically it's worse at night because baby's lying down for prolonged periods. It's not necessarily due to how you're feeding them. I mean, I fed both of mine lying down that slept in my bed. One that's still sleeping in my bed. She's 3. But the breastfeeding is so much easier lying down, and a lot of it is we have to do what we can to preserve our own sanity and get some rest. So I wouldn't say that directly is making the reflux worse, but I need to look at the pattern of symptoms of what's coming up in the hours after. So whenever you start breastfeeding lying down, do they get worse specifically? Are they better in the day? How's she feeding? So I'm very sorry I can't go into more detail on that, but if you come back to us, I will do my best. Another Instagram one, Jenny BB. My baby has been diagnosed with non-IgE medicated gastrointestinal food allergy. While she was much better since we have adjusted her diet and given medication, her reflux has flared up constantly since started teething. What are the main things we can do to help? Is she on solids? Because I'm reading this when you say that you've adjusted her diet. So Jenny, when you say you've adjusted her diet and given medication, she's improved. I'm assuming that that's not just changed her milk. I'm assuming that that's food she's eating. I recommend you grab a copy of my book and look at the foods, page 190, 191, that I say are safe for babies. If she's eating anything like bread, wheat, flour, pasta, potatoes, sweet potatoes, parsnips, peas, sweet corn, tomatoes, apples, pears, any of these will flare reflux, or are highly, highly likely to flare reflux, because at a molecular level they are very complex carbohydrates, and our babies, when they're born, we know they have an immature digestive system. We don't speak about it, but we know, and we know this because they survive solely on a liquid diet for 6 months. When they turn 6 months, it's almost like we're counselled that it's a step change and they can now digest everything on the planet. Now, that is not true. It's not fair of us to expect them to be able to digest everything on the planet. So I know from my experience, I was told to watch out for cognitive development, we were looking out for emotional development, look out for physical and motor development, but never did anybody mention digestive development. Now, the biggest sign that we have for digestive development and where our baby is on that curve is their teeth, because their teeth are the start of the digestive system. And when they have all of their milk teeth, this is a big stage to say, right, I'm now producing the correct enzymes in my pancreas and in my stomach that allows me to digest far more types of food. So that's where we're at the moment. I would grab a copy of my book, have a look at what baby's eating, because it's things like what I've mentioned can be causing a massive problem. And I do this, I've done this with several of my private clients. We literally completely back to basics on baby's diet, and they are like a new child within days because their body can digest the food. The food is not fermenting in their gut, and they're able to break it down without any problem and be very, very happy. The one caution I give you on babies with medication is if they're on omeprazole or lansoprazole or any of the PPIs, Nexium is one of the brand names, and anything that ends in ozol is a PPI basically. These, because they stop stomach acid, is baby then can't digest fats properly, and this is really, really, really important because babies need fats for brain growth. So things like avocado and egg yolk, which are phenomenal first foods for babies from a nutrition density point of view, can cause problems. Some people call it Play-Doh poo with avocado, for example. So yeah, it's watch out for that. And yeah, I would strongly recommend completely looking at the food she's eating and changing that, and you probably get a different baby very quickly. With the teething, there's not a lot you can do with teething, unfortunately. When babies teeth, they produce phenomenal more amounts of saliva. The saliva goes into the stomach, and it causes... So when the stomach receives anything, it thinks it needs to be digested. So therefore, it produces more stomach acid, even if there's not food going in and it's just saliva. And yeah, it causes more acid to go through the system and causes everything to be a little bit harder for a time. You can buffer it and manage it by having foods that are more easy to digest and foods that don't raise stomach acid too high. Again, it's really quite complex because you've got medication in there as well as teething and foods. Okay, so I hope that was at least something, Jenny. I know it's not a full answer, but I'm going on the information I've got here. So, hey Kendrell, I have an 11-week-old who's been suffering with reflux severely since week 1 and 8+ projectiles each feed. I assume that's projectile vomiting. So I've attempted natural remedies, spoke with paediatricians and lactation consultants, already dairy, mostly soy-free. I looked into options and our insurance covers. Nothing seems to give her relief. She's been on omeprazole since week 4, which is brought down to 2 to 5 spit-ups each feed, but I hate that her little body's already dependent upon medication designed for adults. I attempted to wean her off to see she'd be okay. It immediately went back the way it was previously. Is there something I'm missing? Is there any tricks? And approximately how much longer should this last? Okay. Okay. Yeah, so the omeprazole clearly hasn't fixed everything, so therefore it's not addressing the cause. First of all, how is her latch? If you've seen paediatricians and lactation consultants, I assume that they have checked for a tongue tie and seen that she's feeding correctly and isn't drinking air. So if you haven't looked at that, go back 30 minutes in the video. I spoke quite extensively about those tongue ties and latch at the beginning. You may also want to try craniosacral osteopath depending on where she was lying in the womb and what birth was like. Because that can cause, just the tension can cause babies to drink air and they can hold tension in their bodies the same way that we do. So being dairy, mostly soy-free, actually there's a few more things. So in relation to Jenny's question a few minutes ago, there's a lot you can do. There might be a huge number of foods in your diet of which 1 or 2 are actually causing a trigger and causing a problem. You know, as far as the Lelesh League are concerned, and I agree with them on this, they've done quite a lot of research on breastfeeding, but if it can get into your blood, it can get into your breast milk. So anything that is absorbed by your intestines into your blood, the blood isn't selective. It doesn't just go, oh, I'm only going to bring calcium, or I'm only going to bring these vitamins and minerals and put them in breast milk. If molecules are small enough to pass through the intestinal barrier, they are small enough to pass through the alveolar barrier in the breast into milk. And from that, there can be molecules of carbohydrates and proteins that are too complex for baby to digest and therefore cause reflux and cause irritation and cause gut problems. So again, there's a lot of detail to understand, and reading the symptoms specifically will give us the specific places to look for solutions. But yeah, again, I've had breastfeeding mums that I'm coaching and they get different babies within days. You know, come back, wait till the end. I've got a special bonus for breastfeeding mums. I've got bonuses for everybody else as well. But really understanding breast milk, and because it is the most flexible option of all the milks. Basically, we are completely in charge of the ingredients in breast milk. We can't change or influence the ingredients anywhere else in any other milk. We just have to jump from milk to milk depending and find the best one. So how much longer should it last? It's really hard to say. The reason doctors say babies will grow out of reflux is that they will. They will grow out of it for 2 reasons. First of all, their digestive system will mature, and that takes between 1.5 years and 2.5 years, basically when they've got all their milk teeth. The other reason they grow out of it, and this is never quoted to by doctors or anything, at least I haven't heard it, is that babies with reflux all have a shorter esophageal length. All of them, from the research that has been done. This means as their digestive system develops, their esophagus gets longer and it's easier for food to not come back up. So they will grow out of it. It's completely useless in terms of a statement because we don't know when. I don't know, can't say they'll grow out of it by 12 months. They'll grow out of it 18 months, or they'll grow out of it by 7 months. Every child is on their own growth curve and it's completely unique to them. But there are a lot you can do to completely reduce the reflux and resolve the reflux by managing diet and food and by managing how they feed, and understanding the latch. So I hope that helps. So going on. So at Growcut, my little one is 10 weeks, got prescribed Gaviscon, which has made little one have a bad stomach. He now has been put on cow's milk, allergy milk. He's only sick in the days that there's, is there anything I can ask the doctor for this to stop the sickness? I would revisit how he's feeding. If he's only getting sick and that's his only symptom, then it leads me to think that either the milk isn't fully dairy-free milk. It could be, for example, the Nutramigen, for example. Some of them are hydrolyzed or extensively hydrolyzed milks. They are still cow's milk, so there still can be reactions to them. It's looking at things like Neocate, which is the amino acid formulas that are cow's milk free. There's a word of caution with those though, because they tend to have the corn syrup solids, and the coconut oil can cause big reactions from the Neocate. And I think it's the maltodextrin in the Nutramigen Pure Amino milk. There's maltodextrin, I think cornstarch, or maybe potato starch. That can also cause irritation, and it's more of finding out which is the best of a bad bunch of milks. If it's under control with the current milk he's on, apart from a little bit of vomiting, I would seek to understand, is his latch as good as it could be on the bottle, and is he drinking air that's forcing milk back up? Okay, so Clow510. My daughter was born 34 weeks and suffers from bad reflux. She's currently on Zantac twice a day. I'd really like to know what the alternatives to medicine, as it was difficult to agree to the medication, but I saw her suffering and didn't know what else to do. Here again, it's all about the detail. Is she breastfed or bottle fed? What's her latch like? It's understanding what is the cause of the reflux. And I go through this in detail in my book, okay? The book outlines what the symptoms that present are, why these symptoms present, and understanding, well, if my baby's got, for example, a clicking noise when feeding, if they ever leak milk from their mouth, they are drinking air. If when drinking they're gasping, choking, gagging, spluttering, they're drinking air. If they have frustration at the bottle or breast and they're trying to grab it and come on and off it, bob on and off it, they are trying to get a better latch. All of those, your baby is drinking air. So it's either a craniosacral osteopath to relieve tension in the jaw. Craniosacral osteopath is phenomenal, for example, if you notice your baby can't open their mouth very wide. I'm not going to do it here. You don't need to see the inside of my mouth. But babies, if they can open their mouth really, really wide, that's a really good indication that there isn't tension that there may not be tension in the jaw. But if they can't open it really wide, even when they're crying, if you notice it's just not as wide as other babies, bring them to see a craniosacral osteopath. Mention it specifically and say, can you check for tension in the jaw and their head? Because I think they're not opening their mouth as wide as they should be. And that will mean they can't get the bottle or the breast in far enough to drink and control it properly with their tongue. Also, if your little one is bottle fed, then please also, she shouldn't be ignored from a potential tongue tie point of view. So it's worth finding a tongue tie practitioner on the website, on the UK website, and contacting them for an assessment as well. So Amelia, excuse me, J Lines. My baby had a tongue tie that was only corrected at 3 weeks old. He's suffering with reflux and a lot of wind. I can hear it as he drinks a bottle at 6 weeks. Could he have learned some really poor latch techniques that are yet to improve? He's both breast and bottle fed. Yes, and yes. I would ask you, when the tongue tie was done, were you given any aftercare routine? There is a video on my Facebook page specifically around aftercare after tongue tie has been resolved. Because, and I know this from personal experience, my second daughter's tongue tie, the wound stuck, which basically gave her back her tongue tie. We had it done a second time. So, and we did, the video goes into the detail about what aftercare I did. This is not, that video is not professional guidance. It is my opinion, because I couldn't do what the professionals asked me to do. But her tongue tie did not stick, the wound did not stick the second time, and we had just a different child. The alternatives to medicine is, so again, so you've got to think, how long has your baby had their tongue? You know, they haven't just been feeding, your little one hasn't been feeding for the last 6 weeks. He has been practicing how to use his tongue since he was in the womb. And I can't remember how old the fetus is when the tongue develops, but he's been doing it for quite a long time. The tongue is a muscle, okay? So the baby has to learn a new way to move this. There's a newfound freedom, okay? It was tied and now it can move so much further. And then we've got to remember, when a tongue tie is resolved, is that, and this is my theory completely, but I know if I've exercised, that 2 days later, my muscles are going to ache if I haven't done that in a while. Why should it be any different for a tongue? The tongue is muscle. So, you know, if baby moves it, you can easily see how they're suddenly going, oh my goodness, I don't want to move my tongue because it hurts. And if they're not moving it, or if they have a dummy pushing it down on the wound, that wound can really quickly stick back together. So I would make sure that you either have the aftercare, you've done the aftercare, or get a reassessment as well. Suffering a lot with wind, if he's drinking it as he's drinking the bottle, then his latch still needs work. Whether the tongue tie is still resolved, I hope it is. Craniosacral osteopath can help, and there are games and things you can do with him to make sure he's learning a new latch. So JPMA Whiny, don't have Facebook. If I ask a question here, blah, blah, blah. Okay, here's the answer. Here's your question. My 10-week-old has reflux on and off. She's entirely breastfed, and some days cannot be put down as she'll be sick straight away. At night she's completely fine. Some days there is much less sick than others. I was prescribed Gaviscon, found a pain to give to her, spoon-fed in the middle of breast milk, and it didn't seem to change anything. Should I be giving it to her, or should I just leave it be, see how it goes? Continue to change clothes 4 or 5 times a day. Sorry, there's another helicopter. I'll take a drink in the moment. Do you know what? I'll stay past 11:30 if that's okay. Zoe, can you let me know if it's okay for me to stay on past 11:30 to get through these questions? Or do you want me to address them in comments and blogs later? Zoe, I assume you're watching, so if you can do that, that'd be great. So, if she's entirely breastfed, if she's going to be sick straight away, instant sickness is an indication. So instant sickness as a symptom on its own is an indication that she's drinking too much air. So, as before, tongue tie resolution, craniosacral osteopath for any tension in the head and jaw. Gaviscon is a pain in the neck to give, and if it's not working, I'm a firm believer, if the medication isn't working, then why give the medication? And if she's not, do you know what, if she's not in pain and discomfort with it, then there's essentially well, why do you need to do anything? She doesn't need to be, if it's just vomit, if she's gaining weight, if she's a happy baby, if she's sleeping well, if it's just being sick, then there's an argument to understand why. But I would absolutely go with latch and understanding what's going on with her latch in her mouth. Nikki told, my 5-month-old has reflux, and just this week she has stopped taking a bottle of express breast milk from her husband at night. She has been taking a bottle since she was a week old. She just screams and screams at him and will not eat. Any insight on how to get the bottle again? Again, it's understanding where the reflux is coming from. If it's a latch issue... Hi Zoe, brilliant. Okay. Yeah, so I'll stay past. This is great. I'll get through the question. So, it's understanding, why is she screaming at the bottle? Is she screaming at the bottle? Is she screaming at your husband? Is it that she wants mum? Because sometimes babies just need comfort and just want mum, especially if there's any pain or irritation. So things like her position when she's feeding. So where does she lie comfortably when breastfeeding? Is it a similar position when your husband is feeding her? Or is she at an angle, a slightly different angle, or a lower angle, or something where the stomach acid is actually leaking out and then causing more irritation while she's trying to feed? So I think I have far too many questions to get a real insight there of what's going on. But it is very much about understanding her latch, the bottle, and position. Yeah, and then which bottle are you using? As I said before, the Medela Calma is particularly good for the sucking element and babies not drinking air. KTGU, oh sorry, I can't read the names. Googlil. I have a 5-month-old with reflux who won't eat more than 2 ounces at feeding. We've tried different bottles, adding formula. She's express breastfed and Zantac for about 6 weeks now. She wakes up every 1.5 to 2 hours because she can't eat enough to stay full. I'm losing my mind. GI doc thinks she'll grow out of it and wants to wait to reassess because she stopped losing weight. Okay. I know the GI's comments are useless. She will grow out of it, but that doesn't help you today. That doesn't help you now. So, this is about, again, going back and finding out what is causing her irritation. What is stopping her drinking more. And typically when babies will only take a small amount, it's because they've drank too much air with that feed that they feel full. Because their tummy is full. They've got a combination of milk and air in there. And then it's like their body says, okay, stop eating now. And then the reflux comes because the air in there is causing the stomach acid to come back up. So, things that I suggested before, understanding latch, craniosacral osteopath, and seeing what you can do there. Again, my book just goes through all of the symptoms in detail to bring you through essentially a step-by-step process of what you need to be looking at or looking for to see where's the next best step of most likely help for you and your baby. So, Mandy, my 7-month-old has silent reflux. I hated giving him Zantac, so weaned him off it at 4.5 months. He is putting on weight and generally very happy. Eating 3 meals a day, but his bottles never went past 5 or 6 ounces max. Does he still have the reflux though, but only a tiny amount comes out? Is it a bad thing to have stopped the medication if he isn't showing signs of distress? Is the reflux causing problems internally that I should be aware of? I still sleep with him on his reflux pillow, which he rolls off when he is comfortable. Also, when should you get your baby allergy checked to see if it's cow's milk or food related? Few questions in here, really good questions, Mandy, thank you. Weaning off the Zantac is amazing. You should always do it in conjunction with your GP or whoever was your prescribing physician. It could have been a paediatric consultant. Sorry, big words, early morning. I cannot, because I'm not a GP, I cannot recommend changing medication. I can give you my opinion, and this is my opinion, is that I don't think it's a bad thing to have stopped the medication if he wasn't showing signs of distress. Okay? But that is my opinion. The reflux that is there now is either going to be things like, was he drinking too much air, so is he still drinking some air? Equally, 54% of babies get reflux flares with food because they're eating foods that their bodies can't digest. Again, the full list of foods that they are more likely to be able to digest is in my book. So understanding that process of and being able to pinpoint exactly what's going on. So things like food and symptom diaries are phenomenally powerful. You've got to fill them out, and they can be a pain in the butt for a few days to fill them out in detail. But the answers you can get and the resolution you can get and how quickly you can get it in a few days is well worth the effort. So there's, for anybody, if you want food and symptom diaries, I'll give you the link at the end. Pop over to my website because they are for free. Is the reflux causing problems internally that I should be aware of? Yes, potentially. The reflux itself, the problems that it can cause is erosive esophagitis, which is where the walls of the esophagus get eroded and are raw. Now this you will know about if it's happening, because your baby will be in massive distress. There will be lots of arching and lots of pain and desperately wanting to feed all the time. There's another helicopter incoming this way. Desperately wanting to feed to reduce that pain. If that pain isn't there, then I would suggest he's okay. When it comes to, sorry, didn't mean to put my hand in front of the camera there, I want to flick off notification. When it comes to the lower digestive system, the reflux itself isn't doing any harm to that. Okay, he may be having abdominal discomfort and pain, but it's air, essentially. It's not going to be causing him problems for longer in life. The medication has far more problematic side effects than the reflux itself. And once you get your baby allergy test to check if it's cow's milk or food related, almost there's no point, because the gold standard way of knowing if your body, baby's body, is going to have a reaction to a particular food or substance or environment is to eliminate it, expose it, eliminate again, and see if there's a pattern. And that's it. That's the gold standard, because skin prick tests only give you a positive. And what I mean by that is, if you use skin prick tests, if they all show up negative, it's completely inconclusive. It doesn't say that your baby is or isn't allergic or intolerant of something. And they don't show up anything that's not non-IgE, and they don't even show up all IgE responses as well. What they do is that if it shows a positive result, then you absolutely have an allergy to that food or environmental factor, be it mold, for example, or pollen. So the best way, so what you can do yourself almost at home, which is, it's not quite as good as a skin prick test, because skin prick actually puts it under the skin. But what you can do is put a drop of cow's milk on the inside of your baby's wrist. You see there, where you can see the veins. This is where we've got like really, really thin skin. So if you put a drop there and rub it in overnight, let him go to sleep. If there's any sort of reaction or redness on that in the morning, then your baby has a reaction to it. Stay away from it. If there's no reaction, it doesn't mean there won't be a reaction, but it's one that put on your list of foods to try. Cow's milk is particularly complex from both a sugars, lactose point of view and a protein. The casein in it is phenomenally complex, and that's why our baby's digestive systems just can't break them down enough. And it's also the reason why babies grow out of cow's milk protein allergy and intolerance, is because their digestive system develops the ability to break down foods better. It essentially starts to produce new digestive enzymes that it doesn't do in the first 2 years of birth, first 2 years after birth. I hope that answers yours, Mandy. So it's me, Katie Jones. My baby suffers from silent reflux. It's called silent. I have somewhat diagnosed myself. My GP isn't great. I've been trying to see a specialist since he was born, now for 4 months, but the NHS is proving to be useless. Sorry to all of those who in the NHS who work hard. I say useless because 4 months to see a baby is not acceptable. Sorry, this is from Katie Jones, not me. He is on ranitidine and doing much better, but like the others, I don't like him on medicine, especially as the dosage is getting bigger and bigger as he puts on weight. The GP diagnosed him based on symptoms such as fussy feeding, arching back, straining, but one anomaly is that he doesn't mind being flat on his back. Is this possible with reflux, or is there anything with similar symptoms to reflux as this could be mistaken for? Katie, if it's... So, typically, no. There are other causes of reflux, but they are picked up very, very, very early on. So in the first week to 2 weeks of life, or after being born, such as pyloric stenosis or intestinal blockages. If your child had one of those, the NHS are phenomenally amazing at picking these things up very quickly. So typically it's not going to be something else. It's understanding why these behaviours are displaying, and if he has any abdominal, gas, bloating, wind, that sort of thing going on. Some babies don't mind being flat on their back, because if it's... it depends on when the arching is happening. And it depends on when So fussy feeding is understanding, is his latch good or not. So again, scroll back and watch the beginning of the video. And arching back isn't always associated with trying to get away from pain in the esophagus. So he may not be refluxing, but again, it's without going through every single symptom and going, does he have this, does he have this or this? And there's about 50, I think, that need to be watched out for an indication of reflux or not. Because very often the symptoms, I get feedback from people who get my food and symptom diaries going, wow, I didn't know these were potential symptoms of reflux. These are things we need to watch out for that we can literally get completely away from. So it could be, I would get his latch assessed. I don't know if he's on a bottle or breastfed, but it's understanding how he feeds. So he's a fussy feeder, but what more then after that, if that makes sense? So Chloe Det Green, my baby suffers from silent reflux and colic. She's always tenses her body and kicks about after a feed. She also has hiccups all the time, not long after a feed. And when she's excited or cooing, she gets them. But they're very deep hiccups. She's having Aptamil, colic comfort milk, and Gate Carabol and Gaviscon, not at the same time to thicken the milk, also having Infocol. Please help a very tired mum and upset 10-week-old baby. Okay, Chloe. So the hiccups mean that she's got air in her tummy. And hiccups are a way of babies getting rid of air. So we don't want to try and stop them. If they're not causing discomfort, they're actually another mechanism of expelling air from the tummy. However, it's understanding the rest. Obviously, if you're very tired, she's obviously not sleeping well. I question, does she have abdominal distension and discomfort from Carabol? I'm not a fan of Carabol because it has maltodextrin in it, which is there to thicken milk, but it also has a knock-on effect that it continues to absorb moisture and fluid in the intestines of babies, which can then contribute to constipation. It can also ferment in the gut, which contributes to bloating and flatulence and painful wind. So yeah, it's more about understanding the specifics. The comfort milks aren't always as good as we think they should be. Is she on it because she was refluxing and vomiting, so we needed to keep the milk in? Or was it from some other reason that actually we just think she needs more in her tummy to keep things down a bit? More information would be great on that. So little Laura, my baby is 11 weeks and past 9. Oh, hang on, I think, Laura, we've answered your comment on Facebook earlier on. Priscilla, you're up now, finally. Sorry it took so long to get to you. Thank you for staying if you're still here. My question, I'm grateful if you can provide some advice on winding after breastfeeding. Are there any natural or homeopathic remedies you would suggest to prevent and or effectively relieve wind in newborns? And then your next sentence, my newborn has been latching and breastfeeding well from day 0. This week we've noticed that he's been getting more and more uncomfortable with wind, and tonight's been the worst we've seen. His whole face is red as a tomato from crying, and his cries clearly indicate he's very uncomfortable. My husband and I have tried to wind him using the corkscrew, over the shoulder back patting, seated upright back patting, holding him vertical, and still no methods. And still methods. Sometimes they work and sometimes to no avail. What is or are the most efficient ways to wind? Also, I have a fast letdown and a fast flow. My baby will never refuse a boob. He can easily drain my breast in 10 minutes. His big eyes are usually wide, bigger than his belly, which may be the cause of this intense, extremely uncomfortable wind. How can I slow down his feeding as a prevention to reflux and colic? Thanks. Priscilla, this is a fantastic question. You're still here. Brilliant. I'm actually going to challenge your statement of latching and breastfeeding well, because my second latched and breastfed really well from the beginning, but she actually had a tongue tie. So, and I know some lactation consultants and breastfeeding counsellors. I'm not either of those. So this is my theory. But when baby has complete and free movement of their tongue, jaw and mouth, that they can control a fast letdown far more easily than if their tongue movement and jaw movement is restricted. Does that make sense? Because they can literally, with their tongue, they can squeeze the boob to stop it, and they can release it to get flow. And it's that sort of sucking action. That is my theory. It may or may not be true, but I have experienced it myself with my second. So I would still advise you to go and see a tongue tie practitioner or an IBL, the International Board Certified IBC lactation consultant, because they are the people who can identify a slight or posterior tongue tie. If somebody says that there is a tongue tie there and that it doesn't need to be resolved, ignore the second half of that statement. If your baby has reflux or has problems and has a tongue tie, then it must be resolved. One GP minor diagnosed tongue. Another GP said the tongue isn't an issue because he's gaining weight. Lactation consultant said he's latching well. He might be latching well, but one GP, from what I think you said, is diagnosed a minor tongue tie, then that needs to be resolved. Craniosacral osteo, absolutely. But if there's a tongue tie, that needs to be resolved first. And see the craniosacral osteopath within a day, if you can, or 2 days of getting the tongue tie resolved, because they can help baby loosen up any other jaw tension and tongue tension that might be there. I firmly believe that there is no such thing as a tongue tie in an unsettled baby that does not need to be resolved. I understand you want to avoid it. Actually, I don't understand. I know my reasons. If you can give me your reasons for avoiding it. It has so many potential knock-on effects that it is well worth the 30 seconds or 50 seconds of emotional distraction that it takes. Again, I recommend you go have a look at the tongue tie videos on my Facebook page, because it's not just feeding. The tongue tie can be a singular cause of reflux in a baby, and it has, as I said, lots of knock-on effects to digestion, to the development of teeth. My teeth are skew-ways because I have a tongue tie that never got identified or resolved, but these things weren't looked at in the 80s. So, yeah, that'd be the first place to go. And if he's got that much wind, he's drinking air. You know, if he's drinking air, then we need to stop him drinking air. And so, yeah, he might be latching well, but if he's not latching perfectly, he's drinking air, and that's causing all of the cascade of knock-on effects. Does that make sense, Priscilla? And, you know, there are no efficient ways to wind or effective ways. You've got to find what's right for your baby. There's another one of sitting them on your lap in front and just moving their body in a circular motion in both directions like that. So, yeah, it's that's another way to wind. Baby massage, rubbing the tummy, if you lie down, and help you with that. There's a few, you get some videos, so things like bicycle kicks and circular motion with the knees and tummy rubbing can help relieve wind and move it through, but actually that's gone the other side of the stomach and causing more distress there. So you come back. Our concerns are the pain it will cause on baby, and it sounds intense. The doctor said no anaesthetic. I know, do you know what? It is literally seconds. And the anaesthetic baby gets is your breast milk. Your breast milk has a natural analgesic in it. I had to have my daughter done twice, and the second time was horrific for me. It was much more me than my daughter. Yes, she didn't enjoy it. Nobody would. But the long-term benefits are so worth it. I have a friend of a client of mine in Ireland had a 2.5-year-old, her child, who must be nearly 3 now, but last summer, so this 2.5-year-old had the world's worst reflux. They couldn't breastfeed, they couldn't bottle feed, they gave up bottle feeding, and at 2 months they basically moved into hospital for a few weeks to learn how to do tube feeding. Now, everything went on. At 6 months ago onto solids, the reflux never resolved. But as time went by, the child got a whole lot of other things, was being assessed for communication development, for slow speech development, and all the emotional things that go with that in a 2-year-old. Last summer, his parents bought him an ice cream cone when they were at the beach, and they realised he couldn't stick his tongue out to lick it. Now the last 2 years of torment from that family could have been resolved with a tongue tie resolution at the beginning. So that's an extreme case, but a tongue tie can be a singular cause of reflux. It then has massive implications on the development of baby's teeth, of their mouth, of their entire facial shape. I should actually have a wider jaw. I should never have needed... No, that's wrong. If my tongue tie had been resolved, I'm far less likely to have needed orthodontic treatment because my mouth would have developed properly. So, yeah. If you want to have a chat about it, please feel free to book a session. We can have a chat. And, even speaking to, because your GP doesn't do it, it's done by a tongue tie practitioner. And you can also get it lasered, which means the risk of the wound sticking is reduced. So just to understand what's going on can be quite beneficial. But I understand the emotional distress, but it's for such a short, it is literally less than a minute. And baby doesn't associate that with you. So it's so worth it. I had a different child when we had it done. So I think we're coming close to the end. Sarah Benson, my 5-week-old has many symptoms of reflux. Sorry, Priscilla. Does that help? I know it's something you don't want to do, but actually that could be your complete answer. So Sarah Benson, my 5-week-old has many symptoms of reflux. Vomiting each feed, very windy, frequent hiccups, won't lay his back, terrible light sleeper. 3 days into infant Gaviscon, he's already constipated, so I stopped today. I'm also 2 days into dairy free, hoping that would help. What should be my next step? Every waking moment he's not nursing, he's crying, he's never content. Is this normal? Thank you. Sarah, it's normal in a baby who's got reflux. It's not normal in all babies. And I think, quite frankly, I think we can do so much to influence the reflux directly. Dairy may or may not give you, it may or may not be the silver bullet you're looking for. Again, there's other things to look at of how foods, the complex carbohydrates and the complex proteins in your diet will affect your baby's digestive system. So the vomiting can be coming from an allergy. The vomiting can be coming from an allergy source, or it could be, again, air and latch. So as with everybody else, I think I don't know how many times I've said it before, but the latch is so important for drinking air. Windy and hiccups suggest, well, the hiccups certainly suggest that he's drinking air. Very windy could be drinking air, could be some of the foods fermenting in his gut. So there's a lot there. Understanding which is the first place, and there may not be one cause. It could be a combination of a latch and food that he can't digest. More often than not, it's a combination of those two, especially when we see abdominal distension and abdominal distension and discomfort. I hope that helps. Please come back if it doesn't. And Jojo, my 10-week-old is a very happy baby and feeds well. Breast milk. He goes to bed easily and sleeps well until about 2 a.m. every morning. When the cot starts thumping and his legs kicking, back arching, he's in so much pain. He squeals and whimpers a lot. It's so uncomfortable. We rock him for a while, and after a time he'll do a tremendous fart. This goes on till about 7 a.m. Any suggestion would be most appreciated. Tried Infocol, Calicam, stomach tea, cranial, etc. This is either two things. He's either drinking too much air, which eventually is getting into his system, and by the time it gets there at 2 a.m, he's just not happy with it. And it takes that time for him to move around and wriggle and be in discomfort and pain until he has the massive release. And it could be that there's something in your milk that is fermenting in his stomach. And that you will see by going through food and symptom diaries and identifying. It's literally all pattern identification. So a lot of it is understanding whether he has... whether it's the same every night, or do you get some nights great and some nights not so great. I know some of these aren't full answers and probably aren't what you're looking for, but actually we need a lot more detail. But hopefully I've given you some ideas of where to look. So Priscilla came back. I meant paediatricians, okay. I hear you. I will try and get another paediatrician opinion as well. Double check if tongue tie is the issue. Instead of a paediatrician's assessment, Priscilla, because not very many paediatricians are actually trained to spot a tongue tie, which might seem strange, but that's actually where we're at. I recommend you either go to an international board certified lactation consultant. If you search for IBCLC on Google, you should come up with their UK website address and you can find one close to you. Or a tongue tie practitioner. Again, search for Tongue Tie UK. You'll get, I think it's tongue-tie.org.uk for the UK page, and you can search by postcode then to find your local tongue tie practitioner. So that's the first thing I would do is because tongue tie practitioners and lactation consultants have spent far longer specialising in identifying tongue ties. So, as great as a lot of our paediatricians and GPs and breastfeeding counsellors and health visitors are, I know some of them have phenomenal experience, but I can't say that as a profession they're the people to go to. As a profession, somebody who's a tongue tie practitioner has the training to give you a firm answer. Now, their opinion, if there is a tongue tie there, their opinion of whether to divide it or not is almost irrelevant. If it's there, it is causing your baby to drink more air. So, absolutely, I would get it revised and see a craniosacral osteopath. Jojo, you've come back. Great. Same every early morning. Is never had it in the day. If it's never had it in the day, I'd almost... Are you doing any different... Okay, sorry, Priscilla. Yeah, you're in Hong Kong. Yeah, IBCLC, they're international. So the IBCLC is an international qualification. I'm pretty sure you'll have them in Hong Kong. Love Hong Kong. Haven't been there for years, but it's amazing. And they will be able to point you in the right direction to get it resolved. Yeah, I don't, again, pediatricians over there, I've no idea of the qualifications and what they do. It's everywhere is slightly different. So, and Joe, same, yeah, so if he's the same every morning, never had it in daytime, I think you said breastfeeding, is the are the symptoms there? Or are you is there a different breastfeeding position or something in the evening or during bedtime that he might be drinking air at that stage? That then while he's resting it gets to go through his body? Or are you eating something in the evening that's quickly getting into your breast milk? Or is there something in the morning, for example, are you having porridge every morning and that's causing an impact at night? So food and symptom diaries are the key to identifying what the pattern is. And once you identify the pattern, then you can get the right fix. So I'm going to, I know there was a few other questions. So I'm going to come back. Sorry, I'm just scrolling back up. I said to somebody at the beginning. Yeah, Victoria Swain. My 5-month-old always spits up after breastfeeding, either when he burps or continues to bring up mouthfuls up to an hour after feeding.
Yeah, Victoria Swain.
Sorry, I've just turned myself on. Sometimes he can bring up large amounts, even though I do my best to take him off and burp him. It can look like he brings up the entire feed. His weight gain is good, remains on the 25th centile. He has a tongue tie cut at 10 weeks, which has helped a little. Okay, when it helped a little, are you sure it is still resolved and that the wound didn't stick? Victoria, sorry it's taken so long to get back to your question. I know you were here at the beginning. When he's bringing up food up to an hour after feeding, I would be asking the question of, is he drinking air? Does he spill while he's drinking? Does he leak any milk from the side of his mouth? I would be asking the questions around the latch issue again. And you're coming up to introducing food in the next few months as well. So watching out for the foods is going to be important. If he's not suffering with lower abdominal bloating, wind, kicking and discomfort, and it's just the vomiting and bringing up burps and things, I would be counselling to have a look at his latch again. If you're sure that his tongue tie hasn't resolved or is still resolved, potentially a few sessions with a craniosacral osteopath to check that he's able to open his mouth wide. He's got lots of freedom of movement in his jaw and there's no tension held in his skull. And even around his stomach and his abdomen as well, to check that that's okay. I don't know if you've lasted till the end, but I hope you can catch up on that. Okay, so I think that's the end of the comments. So hopefully, Zoe can let me know if there's any other comments I've missed. So in summary, I hope you can see now, or I don't know if I gave you the explanation of why infant reflux is always a symptom. It's not a cause. It's different to reflux in adults, and that you can do a lot to positively impact it. So I've got a few bonuses, as I said, for everybody who stayed to the end, so thank you. When I was writing my book, I had to have a cut-off point. I couldn't just keep writing because I'd never have published it, but I'm still generating information that I want to share. So anyone who buys the book can choose from 3 bonus downloads. There's my breastfeeding elimination diet protocol, which I use really successfully with my private clients. There's a download on what questions to ask your GP when you're thinking about medication. And there's one that I have to admit isn't quite developed yet, but will be ready in a few weeks, which is formulas, what's in them and how they affect your baby. It's not available yet, as I said, but it will be available very soon. To get any of those, buy a copy of my book, pop over to my website and sign up and then choose which one you want. Everybody also will get the food and symptom template diaries that I use with my private clients to understand what is going on. So Victoria's come back. I believe his tongue tie resolved his feeding, is no longer painful and he has good movement. That's good, yeah. Get his match checked, as he does sound like he gulps and coughs. Yeah, if he's gulping and coughing, he has something going on with his latch. It's not as good as he wants it to be. And if he's gulping and coughing, he's drinking air, and that can be causing the problem. So craniosacral osteopath can help and see if there's any tension in his jaw. It can be up here. You've got to remember that all the bones here at the roof of the mouth as well are really, really important to feeding. So specifically ask the craniosacral osteopath to have a look at the mouth structures and check and see if you can improve how he's drinking so that he's not going to swallow too much air. I hope that helps. So thank you all for joining this morning. Thank you for being here, and thank you so much to Mori for inviting me. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you've got some value from it. I really hope it's been useful. I'm Anya, the Baby Reflux Lady. You can find me on Facebook at The Baby Reflux Lady. I'm on Instagram at Baby Reflux Lady. I'm also on Twitter, but I don't really go there for much. I don't have time and I don't understand it. My website is thebabyrefluxlady.co.uk, and you can get the Baby Reflux Lady Survival Guide on Amazon globally at the moment. I'll pop a link in the comments. This has been absolutely amazing. I'm not going to finish yet. Victoria's come back with another question. He was born with his hand over his face. Could this be impacted at all? Do you know what? Potentially, because when babies are born, if it was a natural birth, no problem, Priscilla. Glad to have chatted. It's almost, if he had a natural birth, you know, being like that, there's even more to squash through the birth canal. So it could have impacted. He might be holding stress and strain in his skull. It could be that the bones of his head haven't quite gone back to where they should. And a craniosacral osteopath can be magical. Absolutely magical with this. I've had a few clients that I've said, I think you need to see the craniosacral osteopath. And they've had fabulous results. So it's something I highly recommend. Just make sure you find somebody who works with pediatrics already for your best bet. It has been lovely. Thank you all. I'm going to finish up now and go enjoy some sunshine. If you do have any more questions, you can follow me on Facebook. I post every day, sometimes just little tips and tools. I've got a blog that I'm gradually building. And I'm trying to change the world and eradicate baby reflux and bring back the joy and love and ease into parenting that every parent deserves. Okay, that's it. Thank you again to Mori. I shall see you soon. Bye-bye.